Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Paul, otherwise known here on YouTube as OPTIBOTIMUS. And as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be doing a review of the new Netflix Transformers War for Cybertron Siege series, specifically the first series. Huge shout out to the folks over at Hasbro and Netflix for allowing me to watch the first season early. When you guys see this, there has been a review embargo for the past 20 days. So technically, this is the second time that I've done this video. I recorded one earlier, but I wanted to rewatch the series again and get a real good appreciation for it before I talked about it, because the first time that I recorded it, it was kind of just my first reaction sort of thing. When you see this video, it is going to be the 27th of July, which means in 3 days, the series will become available for everybody to watch exclusively on Netflix. Excuse me, I have, not COVID, I have allergies. But I got to watch the first season, like I said, about 20 days ago, recorded a video, then in thinking about things again, I was like, oh, I don't think I talked about this in the video. So I wanted to redo it. So that's what this is. This is take 2. There are specific things that I cannot talk about in it. They gave me a whole list of things that I can't mention in my review. One of which is the entire 6th episode in it. So basically, I can't even mention. I mean, there's a 6th episode. So getting things out of the way real quick. First and foremost, there are 6 episodes in this first season. The episode's runtime is about 24 minutes, but when you subtract the end credits, which are a couple minutes, and the intro, works out to be about 21 to 22 minutes in length for each episode, which I feel is a decent broadcast time frame for it. It's when you would factor in commercials with regular television shows, about 24 minutes is roughly how long a TV show is when you put in all the commercials, 22 to 24 minutes. So I felt like that was a good timing for each episode. One thing that I've noticed a lot lately with some of the recent Transformers things is that they were being very short with the length of them. So episodes were like 15 minutes long, and I feel like that's too short to tell a story. So 6 episodes, about 20 minutes or so. The first season is roughly a 2-hour movie. And right up front, I'm going to let you guys know that going forward, there will be potential spoilers in this video. Because it is going up before you guys are getting to see it, I'm sure a lot of it is going to be actually a spoiler. I would recommend not watching this video. If you don't want to be spoiled by anything, don't watch this video. If you don't mind, feel free to watch it. When you watch it, though, then come back. If you avoided it, come back after you watch this season, then we can talk some more. But you've been warned. You know how it goes now. The entire story is, the way that I would best describe it is G1, a retelling of the G1 story that we already know. So there's a lot of very similar things. One of the first scenes that opens in it is Bumblebee and Wheeljack together looking for Energon, which is a nice homage in my mind to the very first episode of the G1 cartoon, with Bumblebee and Wheeljack doing that kind of adventure. So it's really fun to see that with this. Starting off first with the animation of it. I really enjoyed it. There is a realism to it that the only way I can describe it is there's a physics to these characters. When you move your arm, for example, the bottom part here stretches. This part here folds in. There's different things that kind of move on your body to get out of the way for a range of motion. These robots don't have that. Their giant metal blocky bits can't really move. So they do a really good job of hiding that sort of movement and making it look like it's a real natural sort of thing. So pieces don't like overlap each other. If you have a block here and a block here, it doesn't just mash into each other, which I think is a really nice attention to detail in it. The overall art of it, think of it as, now, hilariously enough, the games came out like 10 years ago, so not a lot of people probably remember them. But the art is very much like War for Cybertron or Fall of Cybertron. Or, if you're a little bit younger, the opening sequence for Transformers Bumblebee. It's very much like that in terms of the overall look of it. Obviously still cartooned up, CGI cartoon, but not overly hyper real, I guess. So the art is really nice. One thing that I will also mention is that this is the first series in a long time where the character designs, being a toy reviewer, I noticed this right away. The character designs almost identically match with the toy designs. So I'm trying to think of, I know Transformers Animated did a really good job of translating how they looked on screen with how the toys were. I want to say like the Unicron trilogy did that as well. There's a really good connection between that. So when you have a Sideswipe toy in your hand, it literally looks like Sideswipe from the show jumped off of the screen, which is fantastic. I love that. The detail also is really well done. There's cracks, there's broken parts, there's gaps, there's dirt, there's rust all over these characters, which does look amazing. And again, as a toy reviewer, makes sense why they went with that aspect in a lot of the Siege and like the Netflix figures exclusive to Walmart. Makes sense why a lot of them have that same design. Looks good on camera. And one part that really did instantly grab me. So as I'm sitting here in the chair, now imagine I'm Red Alert. If you guys have that figure, you know Red Alert. The toy has his windshield kind of behind him like this. So like if I'm sitting here, if I'm Sideswipe or if I'm Red Alert, this is the windshield of my vehicle mode. There's a scene where they show the camera from behind, and you can see through that windshield. It's semi-translucent, so you can see through it to the back of his head. I just thought, when I saw that artistically, I thought that was really very cool looking, how they did that, and how they went that extra step to show that translucence. And while he was like moving, you could see his like the back of his head move through that windshield. So they didn't just completely shade that so that you couldn't see it to cheat on some of the animation. I thought that was brilliant. I love the way that looked. But the design of the characters, the animation, all look really, really well done. Next, I'd like to talk about the voice acting. A lot of times in a lot of recent stuff, I'm looking at you, Machinima, when they did that series, there was a lot of disappointment that I had in the, number one, the animation, like the mouth movement didn't ever match up with what was being said. It always was a weird disconnect. But the other thing that I really, really liked was that, or in the series that I really liked, was the voice acting was superb. They got, I don't want to say they got that, you know, the other ones weren't professional, but these ones really cared about what they did, and they knew what they were doing. There was a lack of depth in sadness in other series. It sounded flat, it sounded monotone when they were supposed to be sad. There was no exuberance in their screaming or anything like that. All of that is here. There, like I said, there's a depth of sadness that you can hear in the voice actors as they're reading their lines for this new Netflix series that makes it seem real. There is anger in screaming. You can hear the emotion coming through in what is being said. And that is something that I feel has been lacking as of late. Really well done voice acting. Shout out to you, Frank, who I still think does an incredible job as Starscream. Somebody wanted to talk, somebody asked me a question on Twitter, or on a live stream I did, what I thought about how Shockwave sounded very much like Starscream. And in that, and what I will say, not getting into too much of it, you guys saw a small section of it. Don't judge a full book by one snippet that you got. Take the whole thing in. That's what I'll say. Now, the overall story is also something that is really very well. So voice acting, phenomenal. The overall story, I think, is up there with one of my personal favorites, which is saying a lot, because I've been around since G1. I've been through every version of Transformers that's ever been created. Some I've been able to get through, some I haven't been able to get through. And I've always said that I feel like storytelling-wise, Beast Wars is the best story that we've gotten. I followed it up by saying, like, a very close second is, like, Transformers Animated. And very closely after that would be Transformers Prime. The luxury of having... So, if you're familiar with Beast Wars, you know the whole overarching story is that they go to the past and the arc is there already. And these are, they're in the past, and there's the story of telling that. And Transformers Animated, it's them collecting the Allspark and things of that nature. But to fill out a full season, 20-some episodes, they have a lot of fillers and different things like that. One of the luxuries of having a Netflix series is you can kind of bypass a lot of that, and they do with this. Each episode, it moves the story along beautifully. There's no real fillers in this. That I could only compare it to, personally, something like Breaking Bad when I watched that. And that was on cable TV. It wasn't a full, streaming service sort of thing. But there wasn't, really any filler episodes with that. When I've watched, say, Mandalorian on other streaming services, Disney+, I feel like there's filler episodes. There's only a few short episodes. Why do you need to have a filler episode? And I feel like this new Transformers series on Netflix takes that and runs with it. They don't really put in much filler stuff. So each episode moves the story along, which is great. The story, as I said, is basically a retelling of the G1 story from the point of them on Cybertron. So, when you go back and watch the very first episode of Transformers, it starts on Cybertron, and then they leave. And it's basically the same kind of thing here. They don't necessarily leave for the same reason, per se. The Autobots and Decepticons are obviously at war. One thing about sci-fi that I feel, when it does it really good, is you may not agree with both sides, but at least you get both sides and you understand both sides. Megatron is good from a certain perspective, okay? Which to me says that he's got a different outlook. Autobots and Decepticons are both Cybertronian. They live on Cybertron. They're both of the same race. But much like Republicans and Democrats, I don't think one is worse than the other. They have different ways of doing things for the greater good, what they perceive to be the greater good. Megatron feels like the working class, which is what the Decepticons are made up of, basically are the oppressed. And that Optimus and the Autobots are the oppressors. So he wants to liberate them. He wants to have everybody have this vision that he has. And it starts off that he has a treaty that he wants Optimus Prime to agree to. Optimus doesn't, because from his perspective, if he agrees, then they'll be serving a tyrant, that being Megatron, who just wants to control things. But you get both sides of the story, and there's a lot of gray area with things, and that comes into play with a lot of other characters through the rest of it. Specifically being Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus is Optimus Prime's military commander, and he believes that both of these parties are going to end up killing each other. And through fighting, nobody's going to win. He knows that he can't get through to Optimus and get Optimus to end this or agree to the treaty. So he decides to go to Megatron, and he goes and he surrenders to Megatron. Well, Megatron realizes that the only way that he's going to really be able to win is to wipe out the Autobots, which is where the battle always comes in. And by having Magnus surrender to him, he feels like he then can take Magnus and use him to give up the location of the Autobots and Optimus Prime specifically. So through torture and imprisonment, he tries to get this information out of him. Ultimately, it doesn't work very well, and Shockwave comes along and gives him this wonderful idea that the Allspark, an ancient relic of Cybertron, is said to be able to have all these powers. And Shockwave believes he's got a way that he can reformat all the Autobots to make them all Decepticons. So when it becomes clear that Magnus is not going to give him the information that he needs, he then basically reluctantly turns to Shockwave and agrees to his plan to find the Allspark. Megatron doesn't want to waste the resources for it. He thinks he's got to go through the entire planet to try to find it, where he just needs to find where the Autobots are, which realistically you'd have to go through both. I mean, because you don't know where the Autobots are, you don't know where the Allspark is. You got to search the entire planet for both of them. So whatever. So that's ultimately what Megatron decides to do, to go with Shockwave's plan. When Optimus and the Autobots find out about this, they then realize they need to get the Allspark themselves to prevent this from happening. And the battle ensues. And I'm not going to get into too much of things, but one thing that I love, and I talked about it, is the gray areas that this is. There's a very grounded in reality sort of feel to this new series, where, like I said, Ultra Magnus is, we're going to kill each other. We need to figure out a way to prevent this. And you have some people that are absolutely loyal to one cause and loyal to the other cause, and you got some people that aren't. They're not as black and white. There's very gray areas where some of the characters are like, hey, I'm Cybertronian. I just want everybody to, I want all this to stop. So I picked a side type of a thing. There's a lot of characters that go through that journey in this, and you can see affiliations change. You can see determinations on affiliations come into fruition. I mean, because I can talk about it, it wasn't specifically said that I couldn't. Bumblebee does not have an affiliation in this series to begin with. Ratchet does not have an affiliation, really. All of these people are they've kind of isolated themselves from the main battle. So Bumblebee, Ratchet, I can't think of really any other ones right now that are coming to mind. But there are several decisions that are made through the course of this first season, ultimately culminating in, and we know this because of the toys. So what the next season does probably follows suit with this, that the Autobots need to get on the Ark and go to Earth. I mean, because we know, like I said, through the toy line, that the art shows them leaving, and then Earthrise them crashing down to Earth. So, as I said, it follows the progression of what you basically see in that G1 series as a way of telling the story again, but with a lot more background, a lot more detail. To let you guys in on spoilers, Jetfire is, as he was in G1, he started out as a Decepticon. He was a scientist in it, but this is him as a Decepticon in the beginning part of this series. And we all know what happens with Jetfire as it progresses. He is another one of those people that he's a very honorable character. I mean, the character traits that we know these characters to have, they still have those character traits. Wheeljack is still kind of a crazy scientist. Ratchet is still a medic. I mean, all this kind of stuff. So we see Jetfire as the leader of the Seekers for this, and there's a battle between him and Starscream, which is a fun sort of thing. There's a lot of other characters that we see on Cybertron that were always on Cybertron from the perspective of how G1 was. Think about some of the episodes in G1 where they go back to Cybertron and these characters are there. Like, for example, the Seekers looking like the Tetrajets. That's how the Seekers look in this new series to begin with. So a lot of parallels between it. It's just a lot of things are flushed out more with it. Why are these characters here on Cybertron still? And why don't they show up? I mean, when we would go back and watch the 80s cartoon, you have the ARC crew, and then you have other Autobots that just like would randomly show up. And like, where do these ones come from? Well, a lot of that kind of stuff is touched on in this because they stayed there. We know that like the girl characters, RC, Chromia, Moonracer, a lot of these characters remained on Cybertron based on what we know in the original G1 series. So it, again, makes sense for certain storytelling aspects why they do what they do. Ultimately, what I think about this series is, as I said, I hold a lot of other series like Beast Wars, Prime, animated in very high regard. I would absolutely put this up there with it. There's a lot of people that are all over the fence about it. My biggest takeaway from it is that they did this series right. This first season, as I said, felt like a 2-hour movie, which was fantastic. As I'm watching it, I wanted to keep watching more and more and more. And that's what, after the 6th episode, which I can't really talk about the 6th episode because remember I said that. In the 6th episode, after the 6th episode, it was very much, oh my God, I want more. Give me more. And it's unfortunate that we're probably going to have to wait several months before we get more of it. Hopefully, things are progressing fairly well with the development of the new season and everything of that nature, that we don't have to wait too long. I know that this one kind of got delayed because of the whole COVID situation, but personally, I thought it was up there with some of the best Transformers storytelling, voice acting, animation, art that we have ever gotten. Time will tell how the rest of you guys take it. One thing that I will say is that getting to watch this 20 days before anybody else has been an absolute nightmare for me to not be able to talk about with other people. It's definitely not been easy for me because I'm a loudmouth, first of all. And I'm really excited for you guys to watch it and to see it. That's how much I mean, if I didn't think it was that good, I would be like, you know what? You guys are going to see it. Whatever. I'm excited for you guys to see it. I'm excited. Is it going to make everybody happy? Absolutely not. But I think the vast majority of people will enjoy this. They'll like the storytelling. There's definitely characters that get a lot more emphasis in this, which will make some sections of the fandom happy. But there's also some characters that really don't get a lot of screen time, which will probably make some of them not happy. So there's definitely going to be elements about this that aren't going to make people happy. There's one thing in particular that I'm thinking about that people are going to probably get annoyed with, but I cannot talk about that. After the 30th, come back, and then I can talk about it. So as soon as everybody has seen it on the 30th, then I can discuss it with you. But until then, I can't. But ultimately, I think this is a terrific series. I think that this is what a lot of people would have wanted as a movie. And I think that is, in of itself, probably the best thing that you can say about it. That if this was put on the big screen, if you spliced everything together and put this on the big screen, I think a lot of people would really enjoy this. As I said, 6 episodes, about 20 minutes each, so a little bit over. So you're looking at about a 2-hour, 10-minute long movie of sorts. I hope they keep that sort of thing in place where they don't have filler episodes. And I hope they don't drain the well. There's a problem with Transformers sometimes where they keep it going for too long. When it's done, let it be done. That's what I'll say. Don't keep going back to it. So that's all I can really think about talking about. It's a terrific series. It is fun. It is mature. That's one thing that I'll say. There is a darkness and maturity to it that you don't really see a lot in Transformers. Specifically some darker elements in it. They're not shy from catering this to older audiences of sorts. So that being said, that's all I can really think of really kind of covering. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Like I said, if you watched it, thank you so much. I tried to keep it fairly generic. I know there were some spoilers in it, but hopefully not enough that it would ruin your enjoyment of it. There are specifically several things that I was told I cannot talk about that would ruin the show for you. So luckily, I didn't do any of that. So hopefully you guys are able to enjoy this video. But there were definitely some things in here that gave some aspects away. But thank you for tuning in. We got almost a half an hour long video here. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, do me a real quick favor. Hit that thumbs up button. That one very small thing really does go a long way towards helping me out, and I would really very much appreciate it. Also, I do want to again send a huge shout out to the folks at Hasbro and, of course, Netflix for allowing me to review this and watch this series early. It was a tremendous honor. It was a tremendous surprise to be able to get it, and I cannot thank you guys enough. I look forward to more. And for the rest of you out there, remember that the real trouble with the world is that too many people grow up. Thank you for watching and taking the time to be a kid.